Good evening. Here on at the channel here behind the veil, we've been talking a lot of stuff about with God and everything, and we have had a lot of discussions about the post-trib rapture, and we've had a few other discussions on who God is and stuff. And we said, in time we were going to do some stuff behind, that was going on behind the veil with the world and some of these conspiracy theories that are floating around. And we thought we would discuss some of them tonight in brief. Kind of give you a potpourri, if you will, a little here, a little there. And maybe sometime in the near future, we'll be able to go and do something maybe a little bit more in depth on the matter. But first off, let's go to the main screen here. I'll just go down to the just the screen. And here it says, on Wikipedia, what is a conspiracy theory? A conspiracy theory is an explanation for an event or a situation that asserts the existence of a conspiracy by powerful and sinister groups, often political in motivation, when other explanations are more probable. See, that's what I have a problem with this. Wikipedia, I think, has got it all wrong. I think a conspiracy theory is to think outside the box, not to take in the narrative that that they're trying to tell you or trying to sell you. If you see something that don't smell right, you see something that don't look right, what's the problem with asking questions? And that's the thing. A lot of times these people never even offered an explanation on some of the things that did happen over the course of our great country, and especially in the last 60, 70, 80 years. So this is what Wikipedia says. Now, what I've noticed is back about 10 years ago, you could find a lot of conspiracy sites. You could go on there. There would be a lot of people asking all these questions. But it's like the sites have been scrubbed by Google, all the major people. They don't, YouTube won't do it either. They don't want anybody to even think outside the box. When you look up something like 9/11 or something like that, you only get like the news organizations, like it'd be like, the New York Times, the BBC, whatever, giving you their explanation on what they think happened that day. But once again, those days do not leave without question on some of the things that we saw, and those questions have never gotten answers. So that's just one of them. Plus, we have the Kennedy deal. We had, with that situation. That's what really got me started in all this was the Kennedy situation. It was starting to make me think, how all this was, 6 degrees outside of itself. It's like this person knew that person. People were burning autopsy notes. It was just all over the place. It was just mishandled, and it was just bad. I mean, anybody who ever gets into something like that and starts studying it, you're going to find that there is questions that never got answered, and that's kind of what we have here. So today, I'm just going to go through a hodgepodge of stuff. I've posted a lot of stuff on here, or got them up here across the top. And I just thought we'd just walk through each one of these. They're not in any certain order, so there is no, I can kind of go with a line of thinking and run through it, but, uh, back wasn't feeling too good tonight. I thought I'd just sit down. I thought I would try to do something like this, put something on here for you fine folks. And tonight's show is just to get you to start asking questions, start to think. If you've never thought about any of these things, then it's a good thing to question. That's what even God wanted us to do. I think it's in Deuteronomy's chapter 13. He said, if a prophet or a dreamer of dreams comes into your life, and he gives you a prophecy and or a miracle, and say that comes to pass, but then he tries to lead you after other gods, know that the Lord thy God put him in your life to prove you, to prove who you are, to prove what you know. So it's okay to question. It's okay to question anything. I have no problems with any of that. So I'll see what I got here. First thing here, oh yes, this is the famous magic bullet. This is the one that was supposed to showed up in a stretcher in Parkland Hospital. Uh, this is the one that's zigzagged all around the car. Look at it. You know, it's not totally pristine, but they like to call it the pristine bullet. There's still markings and stuff on it right there. I think if you looked at it from the long way or the cross section of it, you would see it's kind of not round anymore. So what's interesting about that is that this bullet ended up in a stretcher in Parkland Hospital. That's where they found this at, and looking like this. I don't know how in the world it got into a stretcher in Parkland Hospital, but that's what is alleged that's where it was at. So it doesn't look, and I'll show you what they believe that the bullet zigzagging around the car looks like. This is the magic bullet theory. And if we look at it, this is supposed to go through Kennedy's back, out Kennedy's neck. I think it's supposed to go into Conley. This is Governor Conley that's sitting in front of Kennedy in the jump seat, and this thing goes through him, through his ribs, comes out, supposedly hits him in the wrist, and ends up in his thigh. And then this magic bullet, if you will, ends up in a stretcher in Parkland Hospital. That's where it ends up. Now, anybody that knows anything about hunting knows that a bullet's not going to go through all this and come out looking like it's not even blunted. But that's what they say did. And an interesting note about this is that the they thought they had it. They thought one of these shots did all this damage to Kennedy. One shot did all this damage to Conley. And then they believed that the headshot, which is the one that kills Kennedy that you see on the Zapruder film, it's actually right there in full force, bang. So you know that's a third shot. So they had all this nice and neatly done in 3 shots, and it was done in 6 seconds because that's all the time you got in the Zapruder film. That's all you have to work with, and they think that all this will actually just fit in. But here's the problem. James Tague was standing down by the triple underpass. Now, I don't know if I got a picture of that. If I did, I would like that. There. So down here towards the end of the arrow, pull it up here close. Down here, James Tague is down there, and he's standing right here on this walkway. Well, he gets hit with a fragment of a shot, which now causes problems with those that have looked at the Zapruder film and have tried to dissect what they were going to do with it. Because if you've got a missed shot, then what do you do? Well, we know the one shot is the shot to Kennedy's head. We also know that there's a shot that hit James Tague. So now we've only got one bullet, and we've only got a couple seconds to do it in. So instead of they can't fit four shots won't fit. So this is a Mannlicher Carcano Italian rifle, and it was bolt action. And to try to get that in 6 seconds is 6 seconds is almost impossible. 7 or 8, trying to get 4 shots in that it is impossible. There's no way a person could have done that. So Arlen Specter, who later became, I believe, a senator for Pennsylvania, come up with this junior councilman, come up with this idea of this bullet zigzagging around in a car like this. See, they had a theory before, and then they revamped their theory to this because they had no other choice. Instead of looking and thinking there might be a second shooter, they went and said, no. They were the evidence is telling you, 50-some people that day in Dealey Plaza said that they thought or heard a shot come from that grassy knoll. But now we've got people messing with times, trying to fit so many shots in a certain amount of time, and they had to come up with this. And for the bullet to just show up at Parkland Hospital looking like that. Looking like that. Which is just unbelievable. So let's see, what else did I put on there? Okay, here's the parade route. The original parade route, guys, was supposed to go straight through Dealey Plaza. Okay, it seems right, wouldn't you think? You would think if you were setting up a presidential parade, you would just come right straight down here, come straight down here, and go to the triple underpass. But supposedly, the Secret Service changed the parade route, which this turn right here is more than 90 degrees. And according to, I believe, their handbook, that they should never take more than a 90-degree angle turn on any time at any given time. So this is a 120-degree angle when they went off of Houston onto Elm. So when you've got this coming down here and it's coming down here, they shouldn't have never done this. So here's the question. If Oswald was the shooter and Oswald had planned this, he wasn't aware that the plan was going to change. So why would he have thought that he could have done this shooting job from this distance across the way when, and that's the other thing, guys. I know I'm rambling, but if you come on up Houston here, if you look, they said it in the movie JFK with Kevin Costner, that this would have been the optimal time to take the shot straight from the depository to the car that's incoming, not outgoing. And here he's going away. And what's wild about this is that the third shot is, by their story, is dead accurate. I mean, he hits him supposedly, allegedly, in the head going away further than he ever was. And one of those shots was a complete miss of the car. I mean, you got to start thinking about what's going on here. Many people in that Dealey Plaza that day claimed to be Secret Service, but Secret Service said they didn't have anybody in Dealey Plaza that day. The windows and all these buildings that lined across here, right here, you see these buildings? They're still standing today. These buildings still standing today. There was windows open. That should have never happened with a president coming through. But the windows were open. They changed the parade route. Anyways. So yeah. Here's Dealey Plaza. After it happened, you got people laying here on the grassy knoll. The shooter, I believe, allegedly, is right up here. This is the infamous picket fence up here beyond this, and the shot could have came from there. I've been to Dealey Plaza. I've looked at it. Yeah, it's quite possible. And I don't have the video up, and I probably should have put that up there, but the Zapruder film shows that, Kennedy takes a headshot, and he goes from the, they always say it famously in the movie JFK, back and to the left. Back and into the left. And that's what he does when he gets shot. It doesn't seem like what it would have been if it was actually a shot coming from the backside. He wouldn't have went into the bullet or towards that way. But let's see what else we got. Here's another way of looking at Dealey Plaza. You have the motorcade turning up onto Houston, coming up towards the Dealey Plaza. Here's the sniper's nest where allegedly Oswald does the shooting job. He doesn't take the shot coming up. He waits until he makes the turn down onto Elm, and then we've got these three shots. But if you know, this doesn't even add up, because we've got a complete miss, and James Tague is standing down here, right down here. So use your eyes. See what you think. Oh, the babushka lady. Oh, yeah. Mary Mormon took a picture. I might have that. I think I might have that in one of my other photos. But they're standing. Here's Mary Mormon. This is the babushka lady, I believe. Anyways, the shot comes across and she takes a picture at the moment that Kennedy gets shot in the head. So when the shot comes out, it hits him in the head. You can actually, I think you can still see the little bit of the halo there. There's a little brain matter and stuff went back onto these policemen and stuff. It's really a nasty deal. But if you watch, I think it's Nix's film, because he's filming from this point of view, you could actually see the brake lights come on the car at the time, right at the shoot at the third shot. But this lady, Mary, takes this picture, and I think I've got it here somewhere, what that looks like blown up, and we'll look at that here in a minute and see what you guys think. There's the infamous Mannlicher Carcano rifle. Interesting notes about this gun. It's the worst gun you could have ever bought to ever shoot with. I mean, this thing, supposedly Oswald buys this thing from a mail order catalog out of Chicago. He could have went in any gun store in Texas in 1963 and bought a rifle without even any record. But he bought this supposedly on purpose from Chicago, like almost if there's a record of it, like we got to have a record. Another thing that's interesting about this gun is that when the United States Army got a hold of this and was looking at it and checking the very rifle that Oswald supposedly used, they found out it had a bent sight. They had to fix that before they could even shoot the thing. So is he up there using a gun with a bent sight? Doesn't make sense, does it? Other notes about this, they gave Oswald a paraffin test while he was still alive, and it did not prove that he even shot a gun. If anybody knows anything about paraffin tests are what you can actually, they'll test to see if you have fired a gun within so many hours. And Oswald did not show any records of him shooting a gun or having any paraffin positivity to prove that he did. They never did find any prints on this gun while Oswald was alive. It's alleged that the funeral home people said Secret Service them came into the funeral home when Oswald was in the funeral home, and they went in there and they came back out. And after that, that's when they said that they discovered they had a palm print on the gun. I think the palm print would have been back here or up here where his hand's at. But that's all they got that was, showing anything about this gun being. But it's the worst gun that anybody could have ever used. I mean, with Mausers and everything else that was out there, a Mannlicher Carcano, it's craziness. And then to have a record of him buying it in 1963. Okay, this is Mary Mormon's photo blown up. Now, I don't know if you see it. Some people might not. Some people might. I mean, what is this? What is this? What is this? What's that? What's this? What's this? What's that? Well, some people believe this is the photo of a man shooting the president out of Mary Mormon's photo blown up. He's dressed as a cop, and if you watch JFK the movie with Kevin Costner, Oliver Stone uses kind of like in his storytelling a cop that was up there, and eyewitnesses said that there was a cop behind that grassy knoll, not wearing a hat. And look, that could be the Dallas bat or the Dallas patch over the arm. See how the arm comes up. There's right there. I don't know if you can see it on your screen, but look, there's the badge. They call this guy Badge Man. This is the muzzle flash, they believe. There's the hairline. There's an eye. There's a forehead. An ear. This is what was shown when they blew up the picture, that Polaroid that Mary Mormon had taken. And to show you once again who Mary Mormon is, Mary is this lady right here in the black coat. Matter of fact, she's taking that very picture right there when that picture I just showed you this. That's called Badge Man. Oh, there's a famous photo there. There's Jack Ruby shooting Oswald in the police station live on the air that Sunday morning, I believe. And He pops out of the crowd and says, Oswald, and then shoots him. Live on TV. And I think a lot of people that moment, when they saw this, people in the 1960s saw this, they knew then there had to be a conspiracy. Why? Because you're actually witnessing somebody getting rid of the guy that, that's taking the fall. You remember what Oswald said he was? Oswald said he was a patsy. And, that might have been exactly what he really was. He was on the sixth floor supposedly doing this shooting, and in 90 seconds he got down 4 stories of that building and was in a lunchroom getting him a Coke, drinking a Coke, and Officer Truly, I believe, and the building owner ran into the building. This is 90 seconds after the shooting took place. And the cop runs in there, and they got up to the second floor, and they looked, and there's Oswald drinking that Coke, and he says to the building owner, "Do you know this man?" He goes, "Yes, he works here." And he didn't look like he was out of breath. He didn't look sus, as the kids like to say. He didn't look suspect. He didn't look like he was up to any wrongdoing. And they just passed on him and kept moving. So could he have been done all this? After they apprehended Oswald, he wasn't even allowed a lawyer for 2 days or whatever it was. It was 24 hours. I know they questioned him and they didn't even give him a lawyer. He could have said he did it and it wouldn't have mattered. They held him in there. They didn't want, and then when they finally released him to the American public and they was getting ready to, there's a famous scene that they're trying to figure out what in the world Oswald was doing in New Orleans. And they didn't, they're trying to figure out, he'd been arrested before and trying to figure out what it was all about. And the person in the room says, well, he was with the Fair Play for Cuba committee, I think is what it's called. So who's saying that explanation of what he was involved with? Well, when the person's answering, the camera pans around the room, and the person that's saying it, it's this man right here, is Jack Ruby. It's Jack. Jack's saying it. Now, how does a nightclub owner in Dallas, Texas, knows what this guy was doing in New Orleans, which is a whole totally different thing to be going on about? Oswald was obviously intelligence. Don't know what he was doing. I mean, the story is he was at Atsugi Air Force Base. He was working there. They were flying the U-2 planes out of there. He was a radar operator. He defected and went to Russia. And I think it was 5 months after he was there, Francis Gary Powers' U-2 plane went down in Russia. And it's believed that he could have gave them enough secrets to help bring that down. By the way, that stopped a Eisenhower-Brezhnev peace talk at that time with Francis Gary Powers' plane going down. But anyways, Oswald's allowed to come back into America with his Russian girlfriend, and he's not even questioned. He's not asked why did you defect or anything. You know what he does? He gets a job working for an army map maker, which takes clearance. So how does somebody defect, go to Russia, come back, and all of a sudden he gets a job working for some kind of intelligence operation? It's very sus, as the kids like to say. So there he is. Oh, by the way, Jack Ruby says he wanted to end this thing with Oswald because he didn't want to have to see Jackie Kennedy have to testify in court. What a noble man. That was his reasoning. And if you ever want to see anything wild about Jack Ruby, he spends the next 2 years of his life looking over Dealey Plaza in a Dallas jail cell. And while he's there, he's trying to get the word out that this thing goes all the way to the top. Allegedly. So, a lot of what ifs and wonders, ain't there? Like I said, I'm my back's hurting tonight. and I thought I would throw something on here, and I'm just trying to do some um, random thoughts, miscellaneous theories, and that's what we're doing tonight. So I hope you're enjoying the show. By the way, if you haven't, subscribe to this thing. It really helps us out. That's all we ask of you. Just like and subscribe and share and maybe comment. We'd like to hear what you guys got to say about these conspiracy theories. Some people allege that this is the man who benefited the most, Lyndon Baines Johnson. This is the same man that said our own boys were dying in the water over there at the Gulf of Tonkin, and that was proven by the History Channel and a few other people that the Gulf of Tonkin was a false flag operation. And we'll get into false flag operations on this show over time. One of them people need to look up is Operation Northwoods, which, by the way, this man uh, got put on his desk, and I think this is what all this is about. Northwoods was a document about, you know, a clandestine operations. It was about blowing up one of our own ships in Havana Harbor, blaming it on the Cubans. It was talking about dressing our own planes up as MiGs, shooting down our own American planes, have mock funerals for victims. Mock funerals for victims, guys. All this is in Operation Northwoods. It went from Lionel Lemnisser, who was the Joint Chiefs of Staff. It was sent up from him to Bob McNamara, the Secretary of Defense, and it ended up on the desk of President Kennedy. And Kennedy looked at that and he said, "I don't think so," and he ended up firing Lionel Lemnisser. So, when you watch the movie JFK, if you want to know what it is, that's the document. I think that's the thing that they're talking about and discussing in the movie, because you don't get to know that. You know why you don't get to know that? Because it was JFK the movie that President Clinton, decided to finally release some more papers on the Kennedy assassination, and in that stack of stuff laid Operation Northwoods, declassified. So the movie did something great. It got a document out that we could look at, and we could see how men in our government try to perpetuate false flag operations to get the American public behind it so that they can get the war they want. Do with that what you will. All right, here's some more. Here's 9/11. Everybody remember that terrible day? Horrible day. I remember exactly where I was at. Getting ready to go to a job interview that day. But the reason why I wanted to show you a little bit of this montage, I want you to see all that fire coming out of the side of the building. That's 80% kerosene, guys. That's what that is. That's what jet fuel is, 80% kerosene. And it expanded and blew up mostly outside of the building on both towers. That's key to know, because we'll get into that in a second. And right here we are. This feller is Chief Oro J. Palmer. Now, what's interesting about him is that he actually reached the 78th floor of Tower 2. And this is, I believe, 2 minutes before collapse. So he gets all the way up there, and he radios back to the truck. Now, I'm going to tell you what he radioed. We're going to read it, but I want you to know something before we read it. What he said is hid from the American public for over 5 years. You don't get to know what he said until 5 years later. Why? National security? Really? Yeah, to protect them. Let's see if I could find it here. It's right here somewhere. Right there it is. So it says here, he reported via radio, out of breath and gasping. And you can actually listen to the audio. It's out there. He says, Battalion 7, Ladder 15, we've got 2 isolated pockets of fire. Just 2 isolated pockets of fire. He says, and he says, we should be able to knock it down with 2 lines. Now let's think about that. Does that sound like the raging inferno of fire that we're told by all these experts? No, you've got an actual eyewitness testimony for a man that was there, and he said all we needed was 2 lines and we can knock down the fire. That's what he's talking about. It's all he needs. This is his testimony, and hid from the American public for 5 years because we don't want you to know that, because you might not be able to handle that. Because the reason why is because this man's a hero. But what happened, I believe, on 9/11 is just a disgrace to everybody, that died that day, because these people were heroes. But if you believe that there's a possibility of a conspiracy theory, then all these people, man, wow. I mean, you just think about it for a moment. What happened to him? That man there, good man. Here's another picture from 9/11 that day. Now, I've been told that's about a 16-foot hole. I'll give you 20. I'll give you 20 feet. But I got a question. Where's the plane at? Where's the plane? I have not yet seen a picture, video, or anything of a plane hitting that building. It's not there. They released 5 clips of something hitting that building, but you'll never see a plane in it. You don't see a tail section. You don't see nothing, dude. You just see something streaking across, smoke and fire and a fireball. That's all you really see. And if you look right here, this is a 16-foot hole. So here's my question to you, the American public, and to those out throughout the world. Where are the 2 6-ton titanium jet engines? Do you see any damage out here where a jet engine would be? I don't. I didn't see a tail section. I didn't see nothing. And a plane is a lot bigger than this hole. Now you got to ask yourself, the official story is that all this evaporated on impact. Everything evaporated on impact. Tail sections, titanium is going to evaporate on impact. No. So what do we have? I mean, look, there was no luggage that day. You have to look at it with your own eyes. There was no luggage. There was no bodies. There was nothing. No clothes. Nothing strung across this lawn to prove that anything hit it that was in resemblance of a plane. There's nothing there. So that's my question for y'all. Where are they at? See if we go. Look at it. There's more of it. I don't see nothing. No damage. I know what it looks like. It looks similar to maybe a missile. You never know. But you got to think, you got to question, you got to ask, right? There's nothing wrong with doing those things. But your YouTubes and your Googles and all those people want to suppress it because they don't want you to even at least ask the questions. I mean, there's so many videos on debunking all this stuff. Well, trust me, it's a lot of debunking to do. Now, I'm going to play this from a video. And if you ever get a chance, you ought to check out Loose Change #2 edition. It's a great documentary, and it tells us everything you'll want to know. It's these kids did it back in the day. They did it with an expensive computer. They did it all by themselves, and it is one of the best documentaries I have ever watched. But here's Alex Jones. It was actually Owen Schroyer. If you read down here at the bottom, it's from InfoWars. And here he's going to show you a little bit of a building doing what it's doing. This is, oh, by the way, I should have told you this. The building on the right is World Trade Center building number 7. Guess what time it fell? See, a lot of people don't even know it fell. They only think Tower 1, Tower 2 fell that day. But Tower 7 fell at 5:20 that day. 5:20, a building that wasn't even hit with a plane, which I believe, that's what I'm being told, is that this thing housed the largest office outside of Langley, Virginia for the CIA. It housed Rudy Giuliani's emergency bunker. It housed the SEC, where they kept evidence from the Enron and the WorldCom situation, and people forgot all about that stuff, didn't they? Well, all the evidence is in this building. And I believe I just learned the other day, somebody said something about it also housed the Department of Defense stuff there for New York City. So this is a 47-story skyrise, which in any city in the United States, 47-story would have been huge. But here it is, right here. So watch this. This is showing you the building on the right. It's World Trade Center 7. The building on the left, you're going to see multiple ones showing you what buildings look like in controlled demolition. So please tell me what you guys think. Remember, use your eyes and judge for yourself.
On television. And in every one of these cases, the building had been brought down by explosives in the process known as controlled demolition. From a scientific perspective, therefore, the obvious assumption would have been that World Trade Center 7 came down because explosives had been used to remove its steel supports. However, the public discussion of the destruction of the World Trade Center did not occur in a scientific context.
So there you have that.
On television.
So what do you think? What's your eyes telling you? This building,
Hey,
this
football
building
fans,
sat right
Rich
up there
Eisen here.
and fell that day, and it was like this, and it broke right kind of like in the middle, and then it just fell straight down. I mean, structurally speaking, come on. I mean, you would think there would be some resistance. That's what I have a problem with Towers 1 and Tower 2. Those things fell at free fall speed. If you would have stood at the top of one of those towers and dropped a tennis ball to the bottom, it would have took 10 seconds for it to hit the bottom because that's free fall speed. Nothing resisting between it. So let me get back to the main screen here. Let's see. Pull this back up. All right. If you look, the building got hit right about up here. Well, all this wasn't compromised. None of this was compromised. So how does a building overcome and take and just pancake this thing all the way down? I think his name was Dr. Jones, Dr. Stephen Jones from BYU. I sat in one of his meetings. Another group to look up as architects and engineers for 9/11. And he explained it quite well. If a building has all glass walls, and this does because the building had Towers 1 and 2 had glass windows all the way around it, you wouldn't see these little plumes shooting out at explosive rate speeds coming out of the side of the building, in one window at a time, because the pressure would be somewhat equalized and the pressure would have blown out in all the windows, or at least most of them at once. But 20, 30 stories down, as the building is collapsing and falling, you start seeing these plumes shooting out at explosive rate speeds coming out of the side of the buildings. Firefighters that day claimed that they heard multiple explosions in the building when it was coming down. I should have had their thing up, but in their video, they're going, it sounded like boom, 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 boom. That's what a controlled demolition sounds like. Interesting side note about the security that took care of the World Trade Center Tower 1 and 2 and all that whole complex was a company called SecureCom. SecureCom was run by a man that his name is Marvin Bush. And that's right, that's the younger brother to George. He had his own, he took care of the security. 2 weeks, I believe they said, before the 9/11, bomb-sniffing dogs were taken out of the building. They weren't even allowed in there. And it was like some protocols were being changed and stuff leading up to it. Once again, just speculation. We're just speculating. I mean, it's all a little hokey. There's so many people out there telling you what actually happened. And all we're trying to do in this show is trying to get you to think about things and ask questions. It's not like we're saying anything, but let your own eyes and ears be the judge. Again, I will reiterate with the picture I still have on the screen here. I'll just go back to it. I'm asking y'all, where is the 2 6-ton titanium jet engines? Where was even the damage to the side of the building? There should have been something right here. Nothing. There's nothing there, guys. Nothing. All right. Let's see what else we got. Oh, yes. This is interesting. This happened. This is the BBC coming on live at 5 o'clock in the evening that night to discuss. Well, I'll let the video speak for itself.
About the Salomon Brothers building collapsing, and indeed it has. Apparently that's only a few hundred yards away from where the World Trade Center towers were, and it seems that this was not a result of a new attack. It was because the building had been weakened during this morning's attacks. We'll probably find out more now about that from our correspondent Jane Stanley. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy. There's almost a sense downtown in New York behind me, down by the World Trade Centers, of just an area completely closed off as the rescue workers try to do their job. But this isn't the first building that has suffered as a result. We know that part of...
I want you to note something. Look over right about here. Can you see the side of her head? Right there? Well, you're about to find out.
The Marriott Hotel next to the World Trade Center also collapsed as a result of this huge amount of falling debris from 110 floors of the two twin towers of the World Trade Center. As you can see behind me, the Trade Center appears to be still burning. We see these huge...
Does that building look familiar to you? Look what they're telling you. Jane, Salomon Brothers building, or World Trade Center 7, is still standing perfectly fine right here. And there she is. If I go back to that picture, that video, I think I must have lost it. But you saw the video I played earlier. It shows that building collapsing. And let's look at that. Look at that right there. That's the building we saw fall in its footprint. Guess what happens? They lose transmission with this, with Jane, about 10 minutes before collapse. This building does not come down until 5:20. They're telling you that it's already went down, and they're going to lose transmission with her 10 minutes before this building actually does come down. Could you imagine if this thing went down live on TV after already reporting that it's went down? But here we are.
Huge clouds of smoke and ash, and we know that behind that there's an empty piece of what was a very familiar New York skyline, a symbol of the financial prosperity of this city, but completely disappeared now, and New York is still unable to take on board what has happened to them today.
Presumably there were very few people in the Salomon building when it collapsed. I mean, there were, I suppose, fears of possible further collapses around the area.
That's what you would hope, because this whole downtown area behind me has been completely sealed off and evacuated, apart from the emergency workers. That was done by...
Oh, by the way, when she said it was completely sealed off, she's right. FEMA wasn't even allowed in there. Only people that was allowed in there, get this, was demo workers. That's what was allowed in there. Not even FEMA was allowed in there at that moment.
The Mayor, Rudy Giuliani, much earlier today because of, course, the dreadful collapse of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. But New York, very much a city still in chaos. The phones are not working properly. The subway lines are not working properly. And we know that down there near the World Trade Center, there are 3 schools that are being turned into triage centers for emergency treatment. And I know that over in New York Harbor, where the famous Statue of Liberty is, there's a field hospital where 1,500 people are being treated, and we have heard, though it's unconfirmed as yet, that 100 New York City police officers have been taken there as well for treatment, but we do need to confirm.
Just fast forward it.
Trade Center itself has 50,000 workers. There are tens of thousands of tourists who go up there every day. The figures are almost too frightening to contemplate. You can understand why nobody yet wants to put a figure on them.
Jane, I think many of us, when we heard the news, perhaps on the radio earlier today, were completely flabbergasted by it and just couldn't comprehend it. I mean, it almost sounded too far-fetched. I was wondering what it's felt like for you being in Manhattan. Well, unfortunately, I think we've lost the line with Jane Stanley.
Unfortunately, we lost the line.
In
Just a
Manhattan.
refresher
Perhaps
on
we
what
can
actually
rejoin her
happened, I think
and
it's
follow
going to
that
show
up
us in
later.
this video. This is other views of this building. What's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? See that?
Larry Silverstein. Last time we talked, sir, I asked you if you could address some of the 9/11 conspiracy theories that you're accused of. Sadly, your response has actually invited more of them. I mean, for the record, everybody knows.
Yeah, and if you ever get a chance, go over and check Luke Rudowski's thing. He does a We Are Change, and he's been on for quite a while. He's been doing this for years, guys, and he's really good at it. You might have seen him on the Tim Pool's show a couple times as a guest. If you ever get a chance, though, check him out. Great guy. Plays a lot of stuff. It's kind of what we would like to do as a show. We'd like to go in the same direction as he is. He's a veteran, and he's really good at what he does. And you can see here he's asking Larry Silverstein. What's interesting about the Larry Silverstein thing is that Larry was one of them. He owned the World Trade Centers, and he leased them. And he, by the way, he got a insurance paid off by terrorist attacks from what took place on 9/11. And he exclaimed that it wasn't just one act of terrorism, it was two. So he got double the payout for those two buildings being taken down. And on top of all that, remember that guy I said a while ago, Marvin Bush? Well, apparently he worked for the insurance company. He was the underwriter for the insurance policy that Larry Silverstein signed for this. This is what got me into the Kennedy stuff. Everything was 6 degrees off, and you start going, wait a minute, how does this person, how's this person doing that? And how's this person involved at this? And I mean, you got to kind of get to the, you got to kind of come to the conclusion that there's a reason that all this is going down, and you start thinking conspiracies. And that means that something nefarious is going on. I believe, what was it? They said it was a conspiracy theory is an explanation for an event or a situation that asserts the existence that a conspiracy by powerful and sinister groups, often politically motivated. Well, see, that's what they're trying to say. It's like, the reason why you're coming up with these things is because you got some kind of belief, and it's just an explanation for our nutty way of thinking. But I've only showed you just a few things, guys. I want to talk about just scratching the surface on these things. You got to start asking yourself, look with what I said earlier. Look with your eyes, listen with your ears. You got to start asking yourself, what in the world is going on here? And they've done everything they can to scrub all this, so you can't ask, or you're not allowed to ask questions. The idea has been taken away. And in one of our other videos, one of our end time videos, I've been saying this a lot lately, and that is they're trying to rewrite history. And they're trying to ignore the stuff that we did know, and they just have a whole new agenda, and they don't want you to even go back to certain things. But here's old Larry. Yeah, let's see what else we got from old Larry. I always thought this was interesting. I'll go back to it. Go back over that page. See if I can pull it up. Here's this. This is part of Loose Change. You can see it down at the bottom. Loose Change, second edition. It's on Rumble. Get a chance. Watch this. Watch this. I cannot tell you how many times I've let people watch this, and people's minds are just blown. They're like, wow, this is an hour and 21 minutes and 40 seconds of absolute just truth and questions. And we have to, you walk out of this thing, you got to at least not believe the narrative. And I'll get about the narrative here in a minute.
Is this real world or exercise? No, this is not exercise manifest. Do we want to think about scrambling aircraft?
That's the only video of the actual first plane going into Tower 1. That's the one where I'm trying to think of the Van Ney brothers or whoever it was. They were a French film crew that was doing a documentary with the firefighters in New York City. They were with the firefighters downtown, and one of them happened to catch this video, and it was actually not even like live. So this is like on their recording. They recorded the first plane going in. If you ever get a chance to look at those videos, you'll actually see a flash of light when this thing hits the tower, and you'll see a flash of light before the other one hits the tower too. There's like a small like flashlight look before the plane even penetrates the building. And by the way, these buildings were supposed to be able to withstand this kind of hit. That's what they were about. They were said to be that they could take a hit from a 707. This was 1974, 75, somewhere when it was built. And the 707 was the big boy. And they said it could take it. It was like taking a pencil and sticking it into a screen door. If you do that, all the other metal strands tighten up around it. And that's what was supposed to happen here. But their official story, it doesn't. By the way, there wasn't a fire truck to be able to reach that. And then we go back to that feller, wherever he was at. I had him. Where was he at? This guy right here, Jay Palmer. They didn't have trucks to reach the 78th floor or the of the building. So everything up there was flame retardant. Everything was powder coated. The metal, everything. There were sprinkler systems put in. There's a lot of stuff that was supposed to be in there because of the fire prevention. And they had probably areas where they hooked their hoses on. They could have launched an attack onto the fire by having their hoses on a lower floor connected and reaching the area that was in question. But to say that fire actually melted steel, can fire melt steel? Yes, it can, but it has to be a certain degree. It has to be held on it at a certain time. And I'm sorry, but from what I've seen, from what I've learned, kerosene does not burn that hot. And that jet fuel was 80% kerosene. It would have had to have been on that forever. And I think it was like only within an hour the buildings came down. There's videos. I tried to look them up, guys, and the videos are hard to find anymore. But there's like hot fire coming out of the corner of a tower 2 minutes before collapse. This fire is falling like 20, 30, 40 stories out of the corner of the building. Somebody recorded that. And you barely find it. You could find it on Loose Change. I'm pretty sure it's on there. But you'll see it and you'll say, what is that? That looks like, I'll tell you what it looks like. It looks like somebody running a torch. That's what it looks like. It looks like if you ever used a torch on metal, it'll literally have like a fire lava like look coming out of it. And that's what we see out of the corners of the building. And I remember that they was talking about that Dr. Jones, that Dr. Stephen Jones. He had got some of the ground debris from ground zero, and he had it analyzed. And what he found was that there was like little bitty spheres, little bitty balls of metal inside this collected dust that he got. And the only thing could have caused that was an explosion. It has to be really, really hot and stuff for metal to act like that. And the other thing that threw him off was there was the presence of sulfur. He couldn't understand that either. And his colleague told him, he said, I'll get back with you and I'll let you know what I think. And he got back with him and he told him, he said he believed it to be thermate. And Dr. Jones asked him, said, thermate? He goes, yeah, it's thermite. But with thermite, if you add sulfur to it, it acts hotter and lasts longer. That's the same stuff, guys, they use in building demolitions. And everything that was in that dust was consistent to a collapse of a building, except the spheres and the sulfur. And concrete, I mean, come on, guys. That building fell in 10 seconds. You can watch it, you can time it, you can play it, and you'll see that building fall within its foam footprint in 10 seconds. It fell at free fall speed. Over three-quarters of that building wasn't even compromised with anything. And what did your eyes say? Should that not have toppled over at the very least? If it was weakened here, should have toppled over. How does this overcome all this? All them huge steel beams that's still in place that hasn't even been hit with any fire, explosions, or anything. It's like one of those questions I was asking earlier, where's the 2 6-ton jet engines on the side of the Pentagon? Where's the plane at Shanksville? That's another question we have to ask ourselves. Where's that at? There wasn't nothing out there. The coroner said he stopped being a coroner after 20 minutes. He said there wasn't even a drop of blood. There was nothing. There was nothing out there. It was just a smoking hole in the ground. But that's what they're saying. I'm just saying allegedly. It's like, what? Why can't you ask a question? What does it hurt to ask a question? And like I said, they're scrubbing everything. They don't want you to even talk about it. It's like hard to find any of the stuff 10 years ago. X is probably the best place to go because on there you can actually see things that I hadn't seen in 10, 15 years. I'm not saying nobody did anything. But if we're talking about conspiracy theories, I mean, there's a lot of theories. I don't think it was actually looked at serious enough on what happened. Anyways, that's some of the conspiracies. One of my favorites is the three hobos. I think is what they called them, the three tramps. Let's see if I can type it in here. The three tramps. Yeah, see, it popped up. Three tramps in Dallas pops up. Alrighty, let's go back down to the high screen. Okay, here's the three tramps. This is what I always thought was kind of interesting. Let's see if I can blow this up for you. It's believed that these three tramps are famous people in our history. And I say alleged, and you ought to see this guy right here in the middle. He's an interesting one. That's Charles Harrelson, I believe. That's what a lot of people believe. But anyways, Charles Harrelson was convicted of killing a federal judge in Texas. When they went to apprehend him, he claimed that he did do that shooting job, and he was also in Dealey Plaza that day. So a conspiracy theorist group goes to see Mr. Harrelson in the jail cell, prison, to talk to him about it. And they put this pictures down here for him and let him look at them. And what he did was, and you got to kind of get this is what I think's funny, how he, they shoved the papers across to him. So imagine the papers right here. And they said, is that you in the picture? And he just did this. He went, that's not me. They said, no, really, take a look at it. Look at it really good and tell me what you think. And he said, they pushed it back across to him and he looked at it and he went, boy, that sure looks like me. But that's not me. So, and if you want to watch some of Charles Harrelson's stuff on YouTube, he's on there doing, he's on there talking about drug trafficking across the border. In our southern border, he was talking about it. Some things that the alphabets are doing, the alphabet agencies, and he talked about it. So I would say he was intelligence as well. And another little interesting side note of this of Charles Harrelson, and this, like I said, this is alleged Charles Harrelson. I'm not saying it is him, but allegedly. But the real Charles Harrelson is his boy is Woody Harrelson, the actor. So it's believed that this guy right here might be E. Howard Hunt, who on his deathbed actually admitted to being a part of the stuff that took place His son, St. John Hunt, recorded his deathbed confession. It's out there too if you look for it. But he was one of the plumbers on the for the Watergate scandal, and allegedly he was in prison in jail, and he said that he would, if he wasn't let out of jail, he would start talking about, especially what happened in Dallas, and Nixon got him out of there. This guy back here, I can't remember who he's allegedly supposed to be, but he's a CIA guy. He's kind of a guy that takes care of these dudes. But remember, it says there in that day that there was a lot of people in Dealey Plaza claiming to be Secret Service. Who was, who wasn't, you know? So, a lot of things we could talk about. We could talk about, Lee Bowers in the train station, behind the fence there, behind the grassy knoll. We could talk about a lot of stuff about what Oswald was actually doing in New Orleans with better detail, working for Guy Bannister and all those guys down there. Right in the intelligence community. Their office was right there in New Orleans, right there with all the alphabets, right there in New Orleans. I don't know why a known communist was supposed to be working, within just, a few feet of all these places. But, go figure. Was he intelligence? Again, I believe he was. I will say this before we cut the live here today, and that is that you gotta trust yourself. You gotta trust what you see and what you know, and you need to research with what you're given, and ask questions. That's the whole mission of this video, was to tell you, whether it be anything in life. If they report something on TV, question it. If it's something with the Bible, question it. It's not a bad thing to question things of God, because you've got to know if it is of God, and you have to use the scriptures and the Spirit to come to that conclusion. What happened with all this stuff that we've talked about today is very highly questionable with what the official story is. As they said before, I remember a person saying, if you want a true conspiracy theory, then think of it this way: that 19 hijackers took over 4 American planes with box cutters, and this man was in a cave in Afghanistan on dialysis. And which, by the way, they made NORAD stand down. That's a conspiracy theory. The interesting side note on Mr. Bin Laden is that he used to work for the CIA when the Afghan-Russian war was going on, and he was a CIA asset, and his code name was Tim Osman. And let's not forget the closeness that the Bushes had with the Bin Ladens. I mean, there was one of them they nicknamed Bandar Bush. And if you remember that day, all the planes were forced to the ground, and there was only a few planes left in the air that day, and those planes had security to get these guys out of the country. The Taliban was in Waco, Texas, or down there where Bush was, a week or 2 weeks before this all took place. What's the first thing we did when we went over to Afghanistan, guys? We opened up the poppy fields. I mean, poppy fields, really. I remember seeing Geraldo Rivera on TV there reporting, and there was our U.S. troops standing by these flowers and stuff. And there's things you got to ask yourself, things you got to go, wow, is this, it's like the deal with Timothy McVeigh. I mean, are we led to believe that fertilizer could take down a building like that? That day, local news groups were reporting that there was multiple devices in the building, not in a Ryder truck. Everybody heard about the second guy, but nobody ever knew where the second guy was or who he was. Nobody knew. And by the way, Governor Keating, I believe is his name, his brother wrote a book about this same scenario a few years earlier. And I believe they said he dedicated it to the Knights of the Golden Circle, which is supposedly linked to the Kennedy or Lincoln assassination, which John Wilkes Booth was supposed to be involved with. I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff, a lot of conspiracy theories. I love the shows. There's another show I've been watching lately, Nephilim Death Squad. I've been loving their stuff. They're rocking it out, and I like it. I like to think outside the box. I don't want the narrative that everybody's supposed to know. I want to get into this. I'm not a person that's going to tell you anything about flat earth because I don't believe that. But if I have a question, it's going to be a legitimate question. It's not going to be a crazy question. It's not like I'm going to sit there and deny that the planes even hit the buildings at all. There's people out there who believe that stuff. I don't believe that. I want a legitimate question, but I also want legitimate answers. And I'm afraid we've never really got the full gist of all this stuff. I mean, it's like the Kennedy assassination. The Kennedy assassination and this both had a commission with the 9/11 and Kennedy that they had a group of people investigating something. And I still, to this day, I don't believe the books are complete. I don't believe the books got all the questions answered or anything. I mean, there's so much stuff with the Kennedy stuff I could have went on and on and on about. I mean, you're going to tell me that Alan Dulles, who Kennedy fired, got to be on the Warrant Commission and got to investigate his death? You want to talk about the fox, guarding the hen house, so to speak. I mean, there's a lot of people. Did you know Gerald Ford was on that commission? Uh, it's just a lot of, and there's people on that commission that was questioning stuff. They didn't like what they were doing. I mean, here's another one for you. You had Kennedy when they got to Parkland Hospital. They called for a casket, and the local funeral home there brought up one of their best caskets they get, and they talk about it. I believe it's oak or something, or I remember it's a really nice casket, one of the best ones they had, and they put him in it. And even the guy that said he picked up him and put him in that thing, he said you could feel the back of his head. There was a hole. It was wrapped up in towels, but he could feel that. And they laid him in there, and then the Secret Service is trying to take him out of Parkland Hospital, and the doctors try to stop him and try to tell him that they can't do this because of Texas law. Texas law said that you cannot take somebody out like this. It has to be investigated by the local authorities, because if there was a coup d'etat to take place, then this stops it, and you get to investigate it and make sure that his own people didn't take him out and want him replaced. So they get into a fight in the hallway of Parkland Hospital with Jackie Kennedy in presence of this. And the Secret Service told the doctors if they didn't get out of the way that they were going to, I'm not going to use the cuss words they used, but they need to get out of the way or they're going to run him over with that casket. So they let him out of the way. And if you look, guys, they're banging that casket up that side of the stairways up to Air Force One, and it looks like a getaway. That's what it looks like. And they're in the air, and of course, Johnson takes the oath there. There's a famous picture of the wink that he gets from somebody when he got the office. He wanted Jackie to be there because it makes it look more legit. There's so much stuff to this. I mean, I don't know. My personal opinion, the reason why it all went downhill for him with the Kennedy deal is that Oswald got out of Dealey Plaza. And when he got out of Dealey Plaza, they had a problem because he's still alive. And they got to track him down. And supposedly he went back to his rooming house to get his pistol, his .38 revolver. And I went there and I did the tour, and I thought it was awesome. One question I never had answered was, why was Oswald heading in the direction? It's like if you do it on the screen here, he was down here at his rooming house, and he was going to the in this direction when he supposedly kills Officer Tippit, but then he's apprehended all the way over here at the Texas Theater. So why did he make this track? Or, you know what I mean? He went and then over So why was he going in? Why was he going in this direction? Why? Well, the tour guide told me. He says, "Did you know who lived right over here about a block or two?" I said, "No." He goes, "Jack Ruby." I knew right then what he was doing. He was going to. He got his pistol. He was going to go over and see Jack because they knew each other. There were strippers that even knew that Oswald had been seen with Jack Ruby in his nightclubs days before. Unreal. And Tippett was supposedly a person that was actually used to go there. And Tippett is one of the cops that's killed right there at 10th and Patton. And the interesting note about that one is that when they investigated it, they pulled up shell casings off the ground, and they said that I think they thought Oswald was packing a semi-automatic, and he had a revolver, and the ones that they had ejection marks on it, and the one that the cop had investigated it with said it didn't have because it did have because it had ejection marks and he initialed it. So they brought him shell casings at the Warren Commission and handed it to him, and he said, "No, those are not the ones I seen at the scene." They said, "Well, sure it is." He goes, "No, it's not." And he said, "Sure it is." He goes, "No, it doesn't have my initials on it." So he initialed each one of those as evidence, and that wasn't it. There's just a lot of things like that. And I mean, come on now. Let's just ask this question. How in the world does a guy supposedly, allegedly, shoots the president, kills a cop, runs across town, doesn't pay for a ticket into the Texas Theater, and a guy sees it, and he calls the police. The police are looking for a person that did all this stuff that's going on in the town right now, and you're going to tell me 20 cars, almost 20 cop cars descend on the Texas Theater to take this guy out because they knew he thought he was the one that killed Kennedy. That's got to be the most amazing police intuition in the history of policing. How did they know? How would they have known? Once again, what does common sense tell you? It's just so many things. They proved. Do you know the official story is right now? It's not Oswald, the lone gunman. The House Select Committees on Assassinations, and I think it was in 77 or 78, did a hearing on this 15 years after the event, and they wanted to investigate this further. And they were all about ready to dismiss the whole thing. And then somebody said, "Well, we got audio recordings of the shooting." And they're like, "What?" And he goes, "Yes, there was a cop in Dealey Plaza that day with his finger on there was 2 channels on the Dallas police, and he had his finger on it, and they actually got a recording of the shooting in Dallas as it happened, and he was right behind he was right behind Kennedy's car, I believe. Somewhere right there. Anyways, they analyzed it, and they proved that these shots came from different locations because of the sound of it. You know what happened? They said, "Okay, fine. We'll turn it over to the Department of Justice." And it's been sitting there since the 70s. That's the official story. They believe it is a conspiracy. They just haven't investigated it. They've just left it as the narrative. So, you know, everybody's heard about the list of things and all the things that people who've died that was going to have to testify or that was connected to this event. A lot of people didn't make it. There's pages and pages of people that was connected. Lee Bowers dying on a road on a Texas highway by himself. I mean, Lee Bowers was the guy in the train tower behind the grassy knoll. And he was an interesting guy. He actually even said that he saw something. He saw smoke. He saw a flash of light. He saw commotion right at the time of the Kennedy headshot. So, well, there's just so much stuff. And I just wanted to try one of these conspiracy podcasts. I want to talk about a lot more of this stuff, and maybe sometime we can get a more pinpoint thing, and we'll just talk about it. But this was kind of a hodgepodge, kind of a potpourri, just a miscellaneous conspiracy theorist ideas. I don't believe that, and I'm allowed not to believe. I'm allowed to believe that I don't believe the official narrative of what happened on 9/11. I don't believe the narrative of what happened on November the 22nd, 1963. Uh, I just don't believe it. I don't believe Oswald could do that shooting job with a Mannlicher Carcano rifle in that kind of condition, in that situation, and still look cool and calm sitting down at the lobby drinking a Coke. I think JFK said it best in the movie. They believe, Kevin Costner's character, Jim Garrison, is saying that he believes he was just down there waiting on a phone call. And that's about how they would have operated it. Remember, Oswald said he was a patsy. He truly believed that he was a decoy. And he tried to tell the American people that. And now he's just buried in a little old grave. It just says Oswald. There's nothing else there. I've been to his grave. I saw it. It's no first name, no nothing. Just a flat headstone. But anyways, I think that'll do it for today. I could go on and on and on and on. I'm doing this without notes, guys. There's nothing here. It's a passion. I'll admit it. The things I love is conspiracy theories. I love God. I love the Bible. I love His Word. And these, I want truth. And I really wanted to name this broadcast, this whole production. I wanted to call it Truth Seekers, because that's what I do. I want the truth. That's why I've asked God in my prayers, Lord, just give me the truth. Give me as much as I can handle. I want to know everything I can. I want to know these things because, I like truth. I like when I get truth. I don't like it when people lie to me. I don't like that at all. And lying's like stealing. There's absolutely zero honor in it. So I hope you enjoyed the show today. Like I said, this is just a little scratching the surface of a topic that's been going on for 60 years. And it's going to keep going on. When these papers get released and we get to learn more, nobody knows if Trump becomes president. Is he not going to release more of them? I don't even believe Bobby Kennedy was killed by Saran. I don't believe it. There's even RFK Jr. doesn't even believe it. So there's videos on him, and there's a book I've got that talks about that as well. And RFK Jr. recommended it. My favorite book, if you want to read about the Kennedy assassination, then you need to get Crossfire by Jim Marrs. That's one of the best books, and that's actually what Oliver Stone used to do the movie JFK. There's a lot of information in that. Jim Marrs is an investigative reporter, and he goes after that just like that, and he wants to know the truth as well. But I think that's going to do it all. God bless you all. I'm glad you joined in. But please remember to like, subscribe, and comment on this video. It really helps us. We're just starting this thing off. We've only been doing this for 2.5 weeks or so. So if you could do that for us here and try to give us a little bit of a push, that would be super awesome. So anyways, God bless you all. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And we'll try to catch you all on the flippity flop. All right.